Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to talk to you guys about the brand new record from Enthroned, Cold Black Suns, out June 7 on Season of Mist. The album has 9 tracks, 48 minutes in length, and this is the band's 11th full-length studio album. Now, the moment I started listening to this record, the first impression that I had is that this album was written lyrically and musically in the deepest pits of hell. That is the impression, that is the overall vibe that you're going to get listening to this record from the first to the last track. Overall, they were able to transport that feeling to each single track by using different elements. The songs are not repetitive, the songs are not mundane, the songs don't become more boring, even though they all have the same vibe, they all have the same feel to it, they're all constructed differently. So they were able to create songs that overall have that same idea, that same blanket covering them, but each single one is built in a completely different way from the one before and the one that comes after. They're all very unique in its own structure and how the intros are done and how the outros are done, where the solo comes up, what style of vocals they use, how did the drums work, the sound of the guitars. Everything was done differently from song to song while keeping that same vibe overall. The album is extremely brutal, extremely atmospheric. I would say those two words perhaps are the two words that better describe the overall sound of the record. They were able to merge those two worlds extremely well on this record by incorporating them on almost every single track. Has a little bit of an atmospheric element in it, and every single track has a lot of brutality in it. It's an album that really flows extremely well, has a really cool structure. There's no skippable tracks. The album is very leveled as far as the quality is concerned. The quality that you get on the first track is going to be the quality that you're going to get on the last track. The album is very even when it comes to the sound, the quality. You almost become halfway through the record, you almost know what to expect as far as quality is concerned, because there is no bad song on this record. The record has good track after good track after good track with a very perfect flow to it. So the album goes by extremely quickly. You don't even feel the time going by when you're listening to this record because you get absolutely absorbed in it. To give you an example of how cool the structure on this record is, I'll talk to you slightly about the first two songs on the record. The first song is Ophiusa. Ophiusa is a track that at the first glance, it almost feels like a pure atmospheric instrumental track. It's not. There are some vocals in there, but it's very faint and almost in the background. There's a small stretch of vocals on that track. The vocals come across almost like a chant, like an incantation, like a spell, if you will, or casting a spell, something along those lines. It really feels like that when you listen to this track because it has a very atmospheric element to it. Like I said, almost instrumental, and then you have that very fainted in the background vocals that sounds like they're like there's an incantation there. I love that. What a way to start the record with this track. It opens the doors for what's to come next because you really feel like this track is an incantation, and then everything that follows after is the result of that incantation. That's exactly how this album feels. I love that. I love that this is the opening track, and the track that comes right after is Hosanna Satana, which is absolutely one of the most brutal, is the shortest song on the album, and it's one of the most brutal tracks on the album. So you have this atmospheric, almost instrumental intro that really puts you in a very calm place. It's very methodic in its approach, and then it just really lowers your expectations because it takes you to a different place. And then the next song, the song that comes right after, it's extremely brutal from the first second, not even the first minute, from the first second to the last. So that really hits you hard because you're not expecting. The fluctuation between the first and the second track is absolutely mind-blowing. Once you get into the second track and you get used to that aggression, then you're going to get that aggression throughout the record. Now, speaking of aggression, I have to say there's two elements on this record that really deserve some attention. One being the drums. I absolutely felt in love with the drums because the drums on this album are violent, are aggressive, are blistering, yet they're methodic, they're melodic, they set the tempos, they're atmospheric at times. Absolutely love the work on this album as far as the drums are concerned. The mood swings that the drums are able to give each single track is absolutely phenomenal. Sometimes the drums are extremely violent and aggressive, while the guitars in the forefront are very methodic and melancholic. Sometimes it changes, it goes on the reverse. The guitars become a lot more aggressive, while the drums become a lot more methodic. I love what they did with the drums and the guitars, because that was going to be my second point, is the guitars on this album. The guitars are also phenomenal. I like the sound of the guitars. The sound of the riffs on this album I think there's the only word you can use to describe it is dark. There's darkness to the style in which the guitar sounds on the record. It just has a pure evil darkness aspect to it. It's so thick. The sound of the guitars, the darkness of the sound of the guitars on this album is so thick. Now, when you put these two elements together, when you put the drums and the guitars and you start talking about the two and how they combine, absolutely majestic. They were able to connect these two elements and really allow one to feed off the other. And when one is more methodic, more melodic, perhaps more dark, more somber, the other one is a lot more aggressive. It's a lot more pungent. Sometimes they switch it around. Sometimes they're both methodic. They're both slower. Sometimes they're both aggressive. The two always feel like one and two. They always feel like they're partners on every single track, that they work together in order to give the song the life that it needs. I absolutely love the guitars and drums on this record. Now, let's talk about some songs. I'm going to start with Oneiros. Oneiros is has a very dark instrumental intro. Almost the sound of waves. It comes and goes. The volume comes and goes in the intro of this song. It's very interesting that that's how the song starts, because you really feel like the volume is increasing, but at the same time that it's increasing, it's really coming and going. Once that goes away, the guitar melody becomes very dark, very slow, very methodic, and it almost feels like it picks up darkness as it goes along. The use of the choir, and they use the choir a little bit on this track, in the background of the vocals. I really liked it because you already have, I wished almost that they had used it more on this specific song, because it gave the song even a more dark atmospheric element. The guitars already had that in bunches. The way the guitar sounds on this song is already extremely dark. When you add that choir behind the vocals, you add a lot more darkness to the track. It becomes almost haunting. I absolutely love that. The song almost feels to me like a soundtrack to a ritual that's being performed in a dark forest somewhere. It has that vibe. It has the vibe of someone, specifically during the choir part, of somebody creating, once again, like an incantation, and then the people around that are part of that ceremony are the choir behind it. I absolutely love that. It just gives such an ominous vibe to the track. Halfway through, the drums really pick up aggression, because I would say up to the halfway point of the song, the drums are very subdued. The drums are there just kind of setting the tempo, setting the mood. But the halfway through, the drums really pick up an aggression, while everything else around it stays very methodic, very dark. And that is a really, really cool combination, because you have so much aggression coming from the drums, while everything else stayed the same as it was in the beginning of the track. Really cool dynamic. I really like that change. It really switched the song on a dime. The next song I want to talk about is Vapula Omega. Aggression almost from the first second with this track. Very different from the previous one that I mentioned. This one has aggression almost from the beginning. The barrage of the drums and how the guitars are blended into the drums comes at you. It's almost like machine gun fire. It's absolutely pounding. It just pounds you to the pavement. The drum track overall on this song is phenomenal. One of my favorites, perhaps, as far as drums are concerned on this record. I really like how the drums sound on this specific track. It really alternates aggressive with more atmospheric and methodic components, while the guitars are always very dark. The way the riffs come across on this song, it just really makes the song so thick. I really like it. The drums are really what gives the song a sense of speed and slowing down. Everything as far as the tempos of the song are really coming from the sound of the drums and what the drums offer to you. And I like that, and they do that throughout almost every single track of the record. I always feel like the drums is really what's setting the tempos on almost every single song on this album. Vocals on this track are absolutely incredible. It has a little bit of aggression in it. There's a spoken word. I like all of those changes, because it really helps with the story. It really helps with the lyrics. It really helps to overall wrap the song together and make it full, make it unique, make its own. It gives the song its own life, if you will. The solo on this track, I have to mention it because it's absolutely incredible. It has a lot of melody, but in the melody of the solo, there's also a lot of darkness. And I like what they did with the solo, because the solo was not short. They extended the solo. The solo comes towards the end of the track, so they extended the solo, and then on top of the solo, as the solo starts to taper off, the drums come in on top of it, and then the vocals come in on top of that, and you can still hear the solo almost fainting as life is fainting into the background. I absolutely love how they built that solo towards the end of the track, how they extended it, but more important to me, on when the solo is that extended and when the solo has this much melody but at the same time this much darkness, when you add the drums on top and when you add the vocals on top, it really gives a somber feel to the tailor end of this track. Last but not least, Son of Man. This is, in my opinion, the most haunting track on the record. To me, this song is all about telling a story. This is an audio movie, if you will, as far as this song is concerned. This song is really about telling a story. So the vocals on this track, most of them are spoken word, either by a narrator or first-person account, and it's really a story. It's really a mini movie, if you will. I really like that. The whole song has that vibe, from the music to the way the vocals are delivered. This is a very different a song from the rest of the album, and perhaps the perfect closing track to the album, considering how the album started off. This is perhaps the best way to finish off the record. Like I said, very haunting, and that hauntingness not only comes from the guitar riff that starts off the track, but it also comes from how the vocals come across, that first person spoken word, the narrator. All of that adds a sense of hauntingness, a sense of darkness, a blanket of darkness to the whole track. I really like that. After the opening riff, the song returns. Almost there's a sound of flames in the background. I love that. There's a stretch there in the middle of the song that's almost all you could hear. It's this sense of flames burning, almost like a campfire burning. I love that. It adds so much atmosphere to the track. It adds a sense of a story being told around the campfire, because the story, the song up until that point already had this methodic storytelling aspect to it. And when you add that stretch in the middle, that atmospheric stretch there with just the flames burning before the instruments and the vocals come back in again, and even when they come back again, you still can hear that those flames burning in the background. The sense of flames, at least that's the impression that I got. It really gives a sense of a campfire, of a song that is about a story that's being told around the campfire. I really like that. It just gives the song a lot of uniqueness, a lot of unique elements that the other tracks didn't have, that this song has. Then around the 3.5-minute mark, the drums come in and the song picks up in tempo. The drums absolutely change the song. The song becomes aggressive in nature. It just becomes a lot stronger. And then it tapers out, it mellows out, and the song kind of finishes the same way it starts. So the way you look, once you finish listening to this song and you look back at the song, there's a story being told. So the music in this song really reflects the moments of the story. So when the story becomes more aggressive, when the story becomes when there's a little bit more anger in that part of the song also becomes more aggressive. When there's a little bit more of mythology, a little bit more of clinical components being told as far as the story is concerned, the song is more mellow. So the mood of the song really is reflective on how the music of the song is represented to you, the listener, and I like that. I like the combination of the two because it really allows for this to come to life. There's a lot of moving parts in this song. There's a lot of moving pieces, but they were able to create a song that comes to life in the story that they're telling you. All right, guys, this is it. This is Enthroned, Cold Black Suns, out June 7 on Season of Mist. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the record, in the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.